Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Star Wars Stuff Podcast on this glorious Tano Tuesday. My name is David.
I'm Retro Ray.
And I'm Kyle.
And this is where we talk all things Ahsoka today and Star Wars. We might talk about a few different topics, but today's the day, guys, or tonight's the night, however you want to look at it. But we've been waiting, it feels like, for years for the show to debut. It's going to happen during normal hours, normal human functioning hours.
Thank you, Disney.
Which for Kyle, it's 9 p.m. For me and Ray, it's 8 p.m. And for certain lucky people, like out in California, I won't mention names on the podcast, but they're going to get it at 6 p.m. and still stay awake for like 8 hours. It's wild. I'd like to say that they finally listened to the podcast and said, hey, look, maybe these guys are on to something, and maybe we should air these shows during the day. Hopefully this isn't the exception to the rule. Hopefully we're going to get all these Disney Plus shows during the day. We don't have to stay up till 2 a.m. Central Time, 3 a.m. Eastern Time. It's a big deal, guys. I'm really excited that they did that. It feels like they listened to us. And we have Ray and Kyle on the pre-show. And Kyle, we haven't had you on the show for a while, so tell us, how's it been going? What Star Wars stuff have you been up to? What are you looking forward to on Ahsoka tonight?
It's been going well, keeping busy obviously with the Fandom Podcast Network, but there's so much with Ahsoka I'm looking forward to. I did a little bit of a revisit of Andor here recently, and also some key episodes for Ahsoka as we get ready. But there's just something about this particular Star Wars show with Ahsoka that just feels like it's got a lot of importance to it, and it's really, I think, a show that could dictate the direction of Star Wars going forward for Disney. Obviously, with everything that's going on between all the craziness in Hollywood and just how fandom has kind of been, I really feel like this is a key show and a key moment, kind of like how I felt when Force Awakens came out, or even back in the day when the Phantom Menace came out. This is kind of one of the, I think we're going to mark this down as that one of these locked in time, incredibly important moments in Star Wars. It has that feel to it, and I can't fully explain why, but I'm coming in with that kind of excitement and that kind of feel for this show.
Awesome. I totally agree with you, Kyle. Those really are my sentiments. I think this show may be kind of the step off point to a new era in Star Wars. And of course, it's Dave Filoni. He is George Lucas's apprentice. He studied at the feet of the master, and now he is the master. And he's gonna do a live action film as well. And from everything we've heard, we had Kevin, your buddy from the Fandom Podcast Network, on, and he went to the Ahsoka fan event and he got to see the first 2 episodes on the big screen. And he said they were very cinematic, which really bodes well for Filoni's movie that's going to drop here, hopefully sooner than later, strike dependent, really. But yeah, I'm super excited for this. And like I said, I share that sentiment. I think we're going to get different elements introduced in the show that are going to propel us into what the future of Star Wars is going to be. So, Ray, what are you looking forward to tonight?
Man, a lot. But I had a little chit chat with a buddy of ours, Christopher Owens, earlier, and he got to see it yesterday as well. I don't know. I guess because the time difference from between us or whatever. So he got to see it, and he basically said it's amazing. And he basically told me that prepare for some stuff that you're not expecting. That's the exact thing he told me. Nothing else, with no spoilers. That's all he said. So I was kind of like, oh man, now I really can't wait for it. I kind of, like I said, we talked about on Countdown to the Geekcast last night, where, we're talking about what we expected as well. I want some flashback. This is where it's a catch-22, because you're not going to be able to make everybody happy, because you're going to have some fans who don't want to go back and watch Clone Wars and who don't want to watch, Star Wars Rebels. So it's kind of like the ones who did watch those shows, are really gonna be invested in this Ahsoka, 2 episodes right here, the story in general. But then you're gonna have those people who really didn't know the backstories and are gonna be kind of like, they want that backstory feel, you know what I mean? Flashbacks. So they're not gonna be able to make everybody happy. I do want a flashback. I do want the one I want is Anakin training her, that scene that we see in Clone Wars where he's constantly, training her to fight the troopers and they're constantly, stunning her with the blasters. I want to see that in live action and see, Anakin kind of telling her to do it again, preparing her for that particular thing that we see of Order 66, you know what I mean? And how she survives Order 66. So it's going to be, there's so much I want to see. What about you?
I've always been really interested in the flashbacks.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're gonna get them because due to the fact that they showed Hayden pretty much in the same kind of setting that we saw in Obi-Wan Kenobi when they did the flashback there, and we heard the new dialogue that he said to Ahsoka, so we know he recorded stuff, so that pretty much confirms it. Even though I really thought that he was gonna be Anakin outside of the suit in the show, and probably in the suit as well. So that any Order 66 stuff, I'm super hyped to see. I love it. That opening, basically the opening scene, I think for Obi-Wan Kenobi was so awesome. I think that was maybe, aside from the dueling, the saber dueling, that was the best scene of the show right there. To be at the Jedi Temple, to see the younglings make it out of there, to see all the Jedi die defending. That was like pretty awesome. And clones in physical armor. That was like super cool to see. And I actually befriended one of them on Facebook, actually. I'm going to try and see if we can get him on the show. But I think he's one of those guys that's constantly working on Star Wars shows. So they kind of rotated him in and out of Obi-Wan Kenobi and The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, Ahsoka possibly. But yeah, all the cool stuff that I think everyone's really anticipating, but the flashbacks for me, if they do a Clone Wars or Rebels sequence that we've seen in animation and live action, that's heavy action and heavy CGI, that's what I would tell Filoni to do, to give us that piece and spend a bit of money on that, because I think that's going to get so many people hyped, and it's going to be wish fulfillment basically for the live action people like me. So, but yeah, before we get any further, I see Evan here. He's in the chat, and he is across the pond. So I have no idea what time it is for him. So this whole time change is not going to benefit Evan because he's going to be in the same situation we were in America for all the other TV shows. So I think he's going to have to wake up really early or just stay up really late to see Ahsoka. But yeah, I just want to recognize all of our patrons here. If you're new watching us on YouTube here, we do have an awesome Patreon channel. On the purple tier, we have Chris Simpson, Kevin Leininger, Devin McCaffrey, Drew Peters, Zach Netzel. On the red tier, we have Fenrir526 and Maya Morris. On the black tier, we have Maka, Tawatala, Nathan Shank, Evan Opaker, Liam McCallan, and Texas Vader 76. Thank you so much for all your awesome support. And if you're out there watching us live, feel free to ask us questions. Give us your opinions, your thoughts for tonight's 2-episode premiere. So Evan says it's 1 a.m. now for him. So he's going to get it an hour earlier than I used to get these shows. So I guess he's kind of like not Eastern, not Central, I guess Mountain Time, the equivalent of Mountain Time in the U.S. So, okay, it's just the opposite now. So
he probably asked for off, I bet you. So he would have to go to work tomorrow.
Probably.
I just want to say it's about time, too. It's time for us to be able to have a quality night's sleep.
Yeah, for sure, because things are getting kind of tough. I mean, I was kind of zombified at work sometimes, doing the pre-show and post-show for all the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. But yeah, it's like I said, it's like they listen to us because we've been kind of talking about that for a while. So what's the next thing that you guys think that Disney, Lucasfilm, Disney Plus should do for the fans to kind of make it easier on us to consume Star Wars?
I think they did it. Disney did it in their announcements the last couple of days, finally announcing physical releases for The Mandalorian. I mean, there's a lot of people out there who maybe can't afford streaming services year round, and to go with that option to be able to finally buy these shows on a physical media for them. That's great. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people have been asking for. And even for us that like digital, some of us want that physical copy, own that physical copy too, because hey, guess what? If the internet's down, I can pop in my DVD and be good to go.
And then you got your collectors who want to collect. Like I still collect. Like I have. It's not how can I put it? I didn't like when they did away with it, like Best Buy and them when they did their exclusive DVDs, like when movies came out or a season of an episode or a season of a show came out, they would release it. And then you know how Target had an exclusive, and then you had Best Buy have an exclusive, and you kind of determine which one do you want as a collector. I kind of didn't like how they went away from that. But you know, them releasing that they're going to do the Scarlet Witch, the Loki, you know, WandaVision, you know, in the, you know, DVD sets like this, I'm going to go buy it. You know what I mean? Because as a collector, don't get me wrong, streaming is great. But let's say you don't have streaming and you just get out of the blue and you want to watch it again and you don't have your service up at that time. You can go watch it, pop a DVD in and watch it whenever you want. So I'm looking forward to it. Disney, you know, is doing the right thing.
I think the other thing I would like to see though is for them to actually make them available to buy on digital as well. Whether it's
or even even if you buy it and then you can get the digital copy as well. That I always like that feature because then you could download it and watch it on your phone if you're on a trip or something.
Yeah, for sure. Them putting this on physical media, it's a little surprising that they're doing this, but I think the way of streaming and them plateauing as far as making money on that streaming platform has happened. I think this is a logical step to take because a lot of people, a lot of fans want Star Wars on physical media, all the shows. And like Ray said, the Marvel shows are going to slowly trickle out as well as the Star Wars shows. And we're going to get the Mandalorian Season 1, Mandalorian Season 2 available for pre-order, I believe, on August 28th. And we'll be able to have them in our hands December 12th, I believe. So coming this holiday season, we'll be able to watch the Mandalorian Season 1 and Season 2 in 4K, the best possible picture, the best possible sound, because I think we all know that physical media is the best platform or the best possible way to take in Star Wars at this point, because it's especially being shot on the volume. I don't know if we'll see more of the volume. I know a lot of people talk about, okay, well, we know they shot in the volume. You can actually see kind of like the seams and stuff to kind of give away that, okay, they shot on stage on the volume. But I mean, 4K, it's going to be a different experience. I don't know if you guys have gone through that at all, but when I screened the Lord of the Rings for my birthday, and I looked at the Apple copy that I had, the stream version to the Apple 4K TV, and then you look at the 4K disc, the 4K disc is a whole lot sharper. And it's almost going to be like you're going to get to watch a different version of what you know and love in The Mandalorian. I'm super hyped for that. The Steelbook looks great. I like Steelbooks. I know there's people that are out there that are huge fans and, like Ray said, huge collectors of Steelbooks. I don't mind it either way. Steelbooks are pretty cool, but we're going to have it in our hands. And even if Disney Plus does something like taking the license and shopping it around to different streaming platforms and maybe taking it off of Disney Plus eventually, we'll still have the physical copies in our hand to watch. So they can't take that away from us.
Well, you think about it too, Dave. I mean, like, for example, like, let's say if your birthday next year, you want to go, we can watch Mandalorian. Let's say we can watch the first episode of Ahsoka making her first appearance on the big screen. You know, how cool is that going to be to watch it on the big screen and not just on your TV? And you can actually watch it with a group of friends and not just at home by yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, great minds think alike, Ray. So I already have scheduled that. I want to do season 2, episode 1, which is kind of almost like a Mandalorian movie right there. When Mando meets Cobb Vanth, and we see Cobb Vanth in the Boba armor, and then you get the big like showdown with the Krayt Dragon, and then the very last episode of the season when you get Luke Skywalker swooping in.
Oh yeah.
So those two right there, that's episode 1, episode 8 of season 2. I want to screen that on the big screen. So,
yes.
So look forward to that, Ray.
Oh, definitely. I'm down with you, man. Like I said, this is, I think, an opportunity that's going to help the theater people as well. Because you think of it now, you can rent the theater and you can actually show it, and you don't have to worry about, because that was one of the issues you can't do right now. Like, you can't stream it, or because of Lucas and Disney, you can't watch certain things in the theater without their approval, which they're not going to give their approval. And same scenario like they did with a lot of their old Disney movies, where they put them in the vaults with VHS. Like, okay, you can buy them on VHS, but once that's it, once they're sold, if you don't own it, you can't watch it no more. I wouldn't put it past Disney doing that with,
Yeah, that's right in line with mine and James's thinking. We did a Patreon daily today for Patreon. It's out now if you want to check it out. We talk about Ahsoka for about an hour. But we brought that up. I mean, they might bring back that whole scenario of it's coming out of the Disney vault for a limited time, and then when that happens, we're gonna put it back in the vault. They did that to us in the 90s for VHS. And I would like tell my parents, I'm like, hey, I think we need to buy this. And then, of course, we ended up never buying it. But I remember those days. And that is a definite possibility because the whole streaming wars, I guess you can say, they're not making a lot of money anymore. And they got to figure out how to make more money. And the way to do that is to take these beloved shows and shop them to other streamers or shop them to cable or whatever. And kind of go back to the old like cable model, which is kind of terrifying. And there's also a couple of articles that were written actually about the future of streaming. And some of these articles state that the possibility of us having to sign a year-long contract with these streamers is very, very likely and inevitable. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that, Kyle?
I think it's the whole streaming thing is actually interesting. I think what Disney's doing with these physical media is actually an experiment to see, okay, where do we need to make up? Because I think what we're seeing with streaming is it became a necessary thing because of what happened with COVID and everything like that. Everybody turned to a streamer, and that you couldn't go out, you were locked in, and so streaming took what I call its bubble grew big before it was ready to grow. And so everybody was jumping on it. I think if we were just had a normal timeline of streaming, we probably wouldn't be having some of the problems we're having now. But because we had this big COVID streaming explosion, it's changed things. And I think when you look at how the income, what's going on in Hollywood right now with the strikes and streaming being a big part of that, I think depending on how they settle on these strikes is going to determine how, if we have to make year-long commitments to this. And it's interesting because how much longer till cable itself is obsolete? You have YouTube TVs out there. You have talk of ESPN finally going strictly streaming, which would be a huge thing depending on what Disney does with ESPN. There's so many things within the entertainment industry that are in flux right now. I think we're all just kind of sitting on pins and needles waiting for that first shoe to drop and start the domino effect of it all. And I think it's one of the most fascinating things that's happening right now to see which direction things are going to go. And I think it's also very scary because it is a lot of the unknown.
True.
Yeah, we're in a very, very fluid time right now with possible changes everywhere. I mean, it's very much uncharted waters for these companies. It was kind of a big experiment that Bob Iger kind of took underway in 2019. And I think at that point in time, the projections was that Disney Plus would just grow, continue to grow, and maybe overtake Netflix, but that hasn't happened. And a lot of the issues are out there that are all publicized of Netflix's difficulties with them maybe being in debt way too much and promising these films to these filmmakers. But it's it's kind of that weird cycle where it hasn't caught up to them, where they're paying more for the money that they actually make, but they're dealing with billions and billions of dollars too. So it's just like, when is the when is the train going to fall off the tracks, really, for Netflix? It seems like, unless they've already figured it out, and I have no idea if that's actually occurred. But I want to address this right here. Maka says, I'm gonna have to reboot my Patreon or something because I haven't been seeing or getting any of the new content. So there was another patron today that contacted me, that's kind of said the same thing. So every podcast we do, every Sunday and every Wednesday, now it's going to be Thursdays, but that might change, is on Patreon, ad free. They're all there. I think the Patreon app is having issues because I know a lot of people listen via audio. So you might want to just close the app, shut it down completely, and reopen it, because I had, I believe, Devin contact me today. So I don't know. They're all there for your enjoyment. But hey, James, welcome to Tano Tuesday pre-show.
Yes, hello. Nice to see y'all. Sorry about that loud sounding. I just kicked my desk. But yes, I am here for Tano Tuesday. We are less than 2 hours away, and this is getting exciting.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure. So Zach, one of our awesome patrons, he asks, do you know where we can pre-order these physical Disney Plus shows? I figure the Disney Store. I don't think the pre-orders are going to happen until August 28th. So you got a little bit of time. And they're not going to be able to be purchased, I think, like physical or actual brick and mortar stores like Best Buy, Walmart, until December 12th. So,
see, this is the thing I think that Disney should do to make it more of a collector's market. If they do it kind of like they do with the Hasbro, where if you buy the figure, you either buy it, and if you don't buy it, only the people who purchase it are going to get it. So it makes it more of a collector's item, because if you didn't buy it and once they stop making it, you can't get a physical copy anymore. I think that would be better, because then that would make it more of a collector's item for the collector. But I mean, like I said, that's just my opinion. But of course, they're going to want the money. So how long they would have the pre-orders up, and then if actually they're going to sell it in stores, that'll be another thing.
Yeah, that would drive up like eBay pricing and scalping and that.
Yeah, it would get ugly quick.
Well, I mean, they already do it now. I mean, look at the people who go to Target and go and scalp all these toys, and they're not buying them because they collect. They're buying them because they want to flip them.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, and there's a lot of people that go to these brick and mortar stores that stake out the trucks, and the stuff is just gone. And I've talked to employees before, and it's like, hey, why don't you have these certain things? They tell me we did, but there's like a guy that came in and bought it all. So it's like, well, I mean, that's not good. But...
And it bites, man, because you know what? You know they don't care about it like we do. And it just, to me, if you're a true collector, you're gonna fork out the money. And I feel like we shouldn't have to deal with scalpers to a certain extent. If we want it, we're gonna buy it, we're gonna pre-order it, and then we don't have it kills out that scalper. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This Facebook user says it's a balancing act of constantly needing to release new content to keep people interested in the streaming service versus overwhelming the audience to cause them to lose interest because of content overload. I totally agree. We just kind of talked about that with Marvel. I mean, James and I today on Patreon Daily, I mean, Marvel's released so much stuff that even myself, I'm a pretty big Marvel fan, I kind of lost interest and just never watched Secret Invasion, the last Marvel show. I was talking to Kyle before the podcast that I was just never really interested, because I mean, there's such a saturation of Marvel content. I know Star Wars really isn't there. We're kind of left wanting a movie every year and maybe a series every quarter. But yeah, it's probably wise to leave the audience wanting more rather than the alternative. So I think that's a smart decision on the studio. You always want to leave them wanting more. That's kind of a golden rule.
There's an interesting thing that's happening though right now too. Amazon has canceled a bunch of shows that they had planned on renewing on streaming, but because of the strike and a few other financial factors, they've canceled. And one of those shows was a show I actually really enjoyed called The Peripheral, and that was renewed for season 2, and now that Amazon's backstepped that and has canceled the series. And I think I'm just curious, the longer we go and the deeper we go into these strikes, is that going to start happening with a lot more projects? Are we going to see projects just flat out canceled instead of postponed because of this? And I think it's going to make it interesting, because as we get thinner and thinner on new content coming out, or things getting pushed around to later on because they're trying to spread out the content, how that's going to play out too. Because I mean, Disney's not going to pull a Netflix and go sign a bunch of deals with overseas producers to put stuff like Squid Game and stuff on Netflix. Disney's just not going to do that. And so I think it makes it more interesting than how powerful is your back library for your streaming, for your people who subscribe to your streaming. How important is that to them?
True. Yeah, I got myself, because I've pretty much caught up on everything that I want to watch. It's kind of funny. I ended up on Amazon Prime flipping through, and I ended up watching Death Wish, the original. That's pretty much how bad it is. I went back to watch something that old on TV, but it's kind of like the vinyl. The vinyl went away. They said CD was going to kill it. It went away, and now you've got collectors who are looking for old school vinyl, and vinyl's coming back in a big wave that nobody predicted. So I think that's what we're going through right now.
So everything's got to go back to a physical copy release here pretty soon.
We're going to go back to VHS.
Yes. Betamax is on the rebound.
No, we're going to go back to the, what was those, the disc? Remember the big disc?
Laser discs.
The laser disc. Yeah, we're going to go back to laser disc. But all I'm saying, I'm just going to say this. I'm glad Ahsoka was filmed and completed before all of this shenanigans started, because if not, this would have been a huge, huge disappointment for all the fans. If we were right there, and then they were like, "Oh, we're actually gonna have to pull it because it's not, it's not done yet." So I'm really glad that Ahsoka was completed, and we get to enjoy it, and we get to see it. And with these new shows coming out, physical copy, I mean, I might just have to start a new collection now, buying these things on, so they can all match. And I like things that match, and that hurts the wallet really, really bad. But like my toys back here, I know I don't have a lot, but it was just like I put them all up the other day, and I just looked at them and I was like, yes, these are mine, and this is exciting, and I just look at them, enjoy them. Same with these. I mean, but then again, like, are you gonna actually watch the physical copy, or are you just gonna just easily go to Disney Plus and just hit, okay, I'm gonna watch season 1 of Mando now? And
I was saying right before you joined, James, that the physical 4K copy, it's like a different experience because everything is sharper. You can see things you hadn't really noticed before. And I just mentioned when I did the whole Lord of the Rings screening, I tested it on my Apple 4K, streamed it in 4K on my 4K TV. Then I put the 4K disc in. The movie looks totally different. You notice so many other things that you didn't notice before. And then, of course, the things that people didn't think of before 4K was invented for the older movies. So you can see like makeup lines and stuff on people. So it could theoretically take you out of it. But of course, The Mandalorian, I think, was filmed in either 8 or 16K. So, I mean, it's ready for it, man. I mean, they kind of future-proofed themselves.
Yeah. Watch parties, man. That's all I can say.
Yeah. So I just want to give a shout out to Legacy of Nerd here. He's going to join us at CadabraCon. He's saying, make sure to give these gentlemen a like. So yeah, if you could please like and subscribe to our channel. I think we're like 9 or 10 away from 1,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you could get us there tonight, we'd really appreciate it.
We had a Facebook user ask us, what show would you be most disappointed by if the writer's strike ending up prematurely killing it off, like what happened last time the writer's strike happened? Anything Star Wars. I mean, I'm just gonna say that if Mando season 4, which we're kind of thinking will happen, may not happen because it may just end up going into the movie. But if they have to stop Mando season 4, I will be very, very disappointed. And then the new the new one, but the Lando series. Like if that one gets shelved because they can't get the pre-production going on it, I'm gonna be very disappointed about that one. Very disappointed about that one because that one I think a lot of fans are excited about now, knowing how it's gonna be brought to us and everything, and who's behind and who's writing it. So yeah, Lando and Mando, which it's funny, are the two that I'm kind of hoping they don't just cancel because of this writer strike.
Yeah, this writer strike, if it stays longer than it is, right now, a couple of people I've talked with, they're already saying it's going to push stuff 6 months behind. And that's just to get caught up. So the longer the stuff it goes, the further they're going to have to start. Because if they can't be writing for these shows, so we're looking like we're going to be probably a year behind playing catch up.
So yeah, next year's Oscar season is going to be very, very strange.
Yeah.
And very, very
Blue
weird.
Beetle.
Yeah, Blue Beetle might swing in and well, no, I'm saying because that's this year, which was amazing. It released and everything, but next year, next Christmas,
Yeah.
if movies aren't being written, movies aren't going into production, there's going to be no Oscar movies for the final finale of the year. It's going to be a bunch of indie films that you haven't heard of. So that's going to be a really interesting time.
Look what's already happening with TV. You have CBS already saying, "Well, we're just going to air Yellowstone reruns on the main network channel now." The TV is already struggling for content, and like I said, the streamers, like except for Netflix, who has all these overseas deals in place, and thank goodness with House of Dragon, the fact that they really everybody on that is overseas, so they're not getting affected by the strike. But yeah, it's. I mean, I know what shows. I don't think it'll ever get canceled, but the fact that it's already being delayed till 2025 is The Last of Us.
Yeah,
season 2. That's just killing me because that first season was phenomenal. But
yeah.
I don't think HBO will cancel it. But the farther away we get, like I said, they've already said it'll be 2025 for season 2 at this point, and that's going to be the other thing. Even those shows that survive, it's going to be so long between from when we lost SOT to then. Are our interests even going to be there to come back to it at that point?
Yeah, look at Stranger Things. Those guys are going to be in college when that drops. You know what I mean? I'm going to be like, they're 30 years old running around trying to do this final battle, and
their kids are going to be joining the battle.
Yeah, the kids are going to be in there, and it's not going to make any sense because they're all still supposed to be like 16 or 17 years old when they are all pushing like 20 years old right now,
and they're married already and everything.
Yeah, and it's like what's happening? So yeah, you're right. That is a bummer. So yeah, even if it does work, a lot of these things are just going to be pushed back, and that makes me interested in wondering how the Star Wars the movies, these 3 movies that we have been kind of promised. What's going to happen with these guys? Are these going to get pushed back even further to like 2028 to 2031 when these come out? I mean.
Well, I mean, there's a way that the studios can pivot. I hate to say it, but just hire all Unity actors from England. Daisy Ridley's already there. I mean,
she's already, she's fine. But like other people, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
And the director's already struck a deal with the studios, and they're satisfied. Which it's just the writers and the actors now.
Directors were like, we just want to work.
I think one of the other things that's interesting though is that you follow like all the VFX houses that Marvel work, and they're unionizing themselves now. And as heavy as all these movies and TV projects have become on the VFX artists, if something were to happen, they unionize and they go on strike, Hollywood's in real trouble.
And then we call Phil Tippett back, and we call who else do we call? There's a few other of the big guys that
Dennis
we call back.
Phil Tippett,
and then just say, all right, guys, build us some models and build us get John Dykstra back there and be like, all right, let's just start making these old-fashioned visual effects to make it look really cool. And that'd be really interesting if we have to fall back to that. It's just a weird time.
But I mean, if you think about it, if they have to fall back to that, they have new technology to help them get through it faster, like 3D printing, all these other components they can use to make. I mean, you got cosplayers making suit out of that foam stuff, and that looks pretty awesome. Almost looks like the suits from the movie. And these are cosplayers who make it on their own time with their own dime. So it could be done.
Yeah, it's possible, and it's just like I said, it's a weird time in our in entertainment. It's such a strange time in entertainment,
Yeah.
and I'm just sad that a lot of this stuff's going to slow down next year. And I mean, hopefully, we still have a lot of Star Wars stuff to talk about and Marvel stuff and everything. DC stuff. I mean, it all might just slow down quite drastically at the
Yeah.
beginning of next year. So that's a bummer. But hey, the good news is Ahsoka comes on in like an hour and a half. So I mean, that's kind of the best thing to happen this month, in my opinion.
If you don't mind, I actually have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
What you got?
Because how big is the Ahsoka as far as this grand Dave Filoni Padawan that he's been going through, working with Favreau and all these other directors to get him to this? This is really, I feel like this is kind of the apex of the Filoni training that's been going on for the last several years. I really feel like this is another reason why Ahsoka is so big. Is this is the moment for Dave Filoni to see, are you truly going to be able to completely adapt to live action and carry the ball, because that's what he's been going through this training class for the last 5 years on this.
Yeah, this is a big test. Not a test, but this is going to be a big I guess I will say test to see how if Filoni can do something amazing and have all of us kind of just say he is George Lucas. Like, that would be the best compliment I think he could receive, is he is the new George Lucas and Star Wars is in good hands. And this show is gonna show that or not. And it's kind of a big deal, it's a lot riding on this thing for him. And he's the showrunner. I mean, the Mando was Jon Favreau, now Dave Filoni is the showrunner of this. So we'll see how it goes, and I think he's gonna nail it. I think it's gonna be amazing. I honestly think we're gonna get all the cool Star Wars things that we've wanted, and I think we're gonna get some new amazing things that we weren't expecting. And I think he's gonna deliver with this.
So we were talking earlier, Dave and I and Kyle. I found this. So we went from Star Wars Fan Days, and this was number 2. And this was when the first movie was coming out. So we went from this Ahsoka to live action. So when this first came out, I didn't think it was going to go where it went to where we're at right now. So to say that it was questionable, because a lot of people complained about when this first came out.
Yeah.
That they didn't like Ahsoka, that she was a brat and blah, blah, blah. And to say that we actually grew to like this character that was introduced to now, I mean, it's so crazy how time has flown, and from this to now live action. Did you guys ever think this would happen?
No, like when I first saw that preview back in, what was it, 2008, when Star Wars the Clone Wars came out, I remember being like, what is this? Why does it look like this? Who's this guy with a hat talking about Star Wars like he knows what's happening? I was like, and it was Dave Filoni, but I was just, because they did a whole, I don't know if they still do it, but like before the movie start, they show like a behind the scenes something, and they did one for Clone Wars, and I just remember shaking my head going, that's not Star Wars. What is this? This is weird. And again, the guy with the hat, I'm like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. This is awkward. And then they were like, Anakin's new apprentice. I'm like, how does he have an apprentice? She was not mentioned at all in anything. And so I was so anti Clone Wars for years. And then finally, like maybe 8 or 9 years ago, I said, let me try it out. And then I was just like, okay. And then the seasons progress, and I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Why was I so against this? And then Rebels comes out, and you're like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. You see her again, older, and you see the fight between her and Vader, and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is the stuff like of dreams. Like, this is incredible. And then in season 2 of Mando, whenever Bo-Katan says, there you'll find the Jedi, there you'll find Ahsoka Tano, and I was like, wow, it happened. Like, we went from what to everybody cheering that this was happening. And Ahsoka I think she is a legacy character. That's what I told David earlier. I think she's become a legacy character in Star Wars. And this show is going to just introduce her to more fans. People who were kind of like, oh, I'm not going to watch the cartoon. People are going to go start going back and rewatching the cartoons or watching the cartoons for the first time to see what it was all about. And I think this show is going to create a lot more Star Wars fans. I mean, Grogu created a whole new generation. I think this show is also going to do the same thing for Star Wars, and I'm excited. I think it's fantastic that happened for the character and for Dave Filoni as well.
I think one of the interesting things with Ahsoka too for Star Wars fans, I think more than any other character, she's the character we've been on with for an entire journey. With Luke, we still didn't really necessarily, when the first film came out, we were meeting him as he's late in his teen years. We don't know about what he experienced with there. And with Ahsoka, it's basically, here she is, basically a young child coming in as a Padawan to fully formed of what she is now as we go into this Ahsoka show and what we've experienced with Rebels. And so I think it was kind of one of those things where, and she won us over. It wasn't, oh my God, we instantly liked her. She won us over. And I think that's what makes us more attached and emotional with this character, is because this is a character that won us over genuinely, not just, oh my God, this character right out of the gate is just super cool and everything like that. And we become more invested into Ahsoka's story.
Yep.
And there was 2 points in time for me that I was very, very nervous for Dave Filoni. It was the very first episode of The Mandalorian knocked it out of the park. The second time was his episode where he introduced the live action Ahsoka Tano, the Jedi. And he knocked that out of the park. His pick of Rosario Dawson, which was like a fan cast that he approved. Rosario Dawson was totally 100% in on playing Ahsoka. She's totally invested. That episode is a phenomenal episode. From all the reports we've gotten, the 2 episodes are great. So I'm really not worried at all. And like Kyle said earlier, I think this is a jumping off point for Star Wars into the next era in Star Wars. And we're going to be introduced to different things. The Outer Rim, the unknown regions. I mean, anything can be out there, really. And there's a lot of creative story potential that Dave can create or pull from legends. I mean, there's an infinite amount of ways and cool things that we can see and experience in Star Wars. And I think Dave Filoni is essentially the George Lucas for Star Wars, because he was the apprentice, and now I think he's the master. The only issue is, who's his apprentice? We don't know that. Is there an apprentice? I mean, always 2 there are, right? I mean, where's the other one? Where's that other person? Who's it going to be? I don't think it's Favreau, unless Favreau has changed his mind or wants to be in Star Wars for the rest of his career. I mean, that'd be cool, but
that'd be crazy.
It feels like Favreau is eventually going to leave us and maybe do other projects on the side. But it feels like Filoni is a lifer. But it is possible that Filoni leaves too. But he needs that.
He ain't going nowhere.
No, he's not going.
He's not going nowhere.
If anything, Favreau has always kind of felt like, to me, he was brought in to kind of give some mentorship to Filoni about handling a big franchise on the live action side, and help Filoni kind of be the guide for Dave to get really into the live action. Because I mean, you think about Favreau, he brought us Iron Man, he helped create the MCU, and so yeah, he knows what he's doing, and I couldn't think of anybody better to help Dave get adjusted from going to pretty much working only in animation to getting to live action. And I think that he's been a great mentor to Dave and really shown him a lot of things and gotten him ready for this moment.
So I got a quick question to ask you guys. This is something that I've always been conversations I've had with other friends of mine. How they say there's always 2. But if that's the case in the video game, and then you've got, the same thing with the Star Wars, the first episode, you got Anakin as the apprentice to the Emperor. But yet once he becomes Vader, or the Emperor you know, that before Anakin, of course, was Dooku, and then Dooku had Darth. So I take it there's two of them, and there's always that person has an apprentice as well. That's never brought up. You know what I mean? So there's always like Vader had in the video game, Star Killer. So is that something there's always that other one, but that's never really mentioned?
Because Dooku had Ventress, had Asajj Ventress during Clone Wars. So if you remember, there are episodes where he's like, we can take over. And it's almost like he's keeping her like a secret, if you may.
Right.
And then Asajj Ventress then gets Savage Opress to then kill Dooku. So it feels like there are always two, and it feels like the apprentice is always trying to hide their apprentice at all times.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the ultimate goal is to kill the master to then they become. And it's really funny because it's like, well, you know how it's going to end for you. Like, you're going to train your apprentice, and then they're going to get an apprentice, and they're going to try to kill you.
Right. And that's the Sith way, and they know that.
It's a really strange, it's a really weird way that they do it. But I mean, but it kind of solves a lot of problems.
Unless the master kills the apprentice first, which is what Palpatine kind of did when he brought in Anakin over Dooku.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he wanted to just keep on exchanging them. And then I guess Palpatine figured out a way how to inhabit whoever struck him down to take over that body or whatever, and find the Fountain of Youth or whatever. So I mean, it's kind of like never ending in a way.
Yeah,
it's clones, lots and lots of clones.
Just clones. I will say one of my favorite episodes of Clone Wars was when Sidious came to fight Darth Maul and Savage Opress, and just destroyed to the point where Maul is begging for Sidious to stop, and I was like, that is incredible. Like
that was a pretty cool episode.
That was awesome. So and then of course there's that whole theory, which was so David, the whole thing that Palpatine was a double wielder, was that a retcon that Dave Filoni tried to say, like, the reason, like, he had another lightsaber, and then, like, I don't know, it was something to the effect of whenever Anakin turned on his lightsaber to him in Revenge of the Sith, you see Palpatine's hand kind of twitch to his side, and people say like he had his lightsaber ready in case Anakin tried anything. And then Filoni then went back through and said, okay, he's going to be a double wielder. That's why he was never worried about Anakin turning the lightsaber on him, because he always had that lightsaber ready to go in case something happened. And same thing with Mace Windu. Like, he wasn't going to let Mace Windu kill him because he had the other lightsaber ready to go.
I'm not so sure if it was like a retcon, but I think it was just never discussed that Palpatine was a true dual wielder. And you figure at that level of power as a dark side user, as a Sith, I mean, you figured he'd be able to dual wield no problem. So, I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, people think it's a retcon, but it was just never talked about. Just like Ahsoka. Yeah. I mean, she's never talked about, but I mean, she was there. There's so many gulfs of time that Star Wars just skips, which is great for storytelling purposes for the future, because you can always insert things and weave it into the grander story, which we're still doing. Things about Star Wars, yeah, we're still doing it. There's still gaps, so we can still add really cool stuff, and that's the beauty of Star Wars. And I don't like it when people start complaining about that. It's like, we have them young right now. Let's utilize the actors we got before they get too old and they can't do it. So bring in the prequel guys, bring in Natalie Portman. Let's do this. Let's get this thing over with. So when they do age out, it's okay, because we already got them back. And Disney wants to make money. Lucasfilm is going strong. So let's do the thing now.
So it's crazy. I've been seeing on TikTok, a lot of people are saying they're sad because this is the last time we'll see Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. And I disagree with that. I think we're going to be see Hayden Christensen a lot more going forward. I think there's going to be a lot more shows that are going to be popping up. So I don't understand why people are like, this is going to be the last time we see Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker. It's like, nah, he's going to be coming back.
We talked about in the last podcast his just footprint at Dallas Fan Expo. He was the only celebrity that had his own building for people to go to sign, and you waited in a building, and it's like, wow, it's like he's that popular now. And of course, Lucasfilm Disney is going to see that and be like, yeah, we need to put him in more things. His reception that he got in London at Star Wars Celebration.
Sorry, we just read a really funny comment. Anakin Skywalker is afraid of the sands of time. But yeah, Celebration London, Celebration Anaheim.
Even Anaheim, yes.
I honestly thought the ceiling was going to collapse because of everybody screaming. Like even when he came out for the Star Wars show, like everybody just ran. Just like, and then when they saw him, everybody started screaming. He's such a loved character and a loved actor by the whole community that I don't think this is the last time we're gonna see him. And of course, everybody, like we said the other day, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, Hayden Christensen's gonna be in Ahsoka," and we're over here like, "Yeah, like of course he was gonna like." There's no way you do an Ahsoka show without including Anakin Skywalker. And of course, David and I are crazy, so we know all that stuff, and we were just kind of confused why everyone else freaked out. We were like, it was the whole Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, which was it would have been weirder if he wasn't in there. That would have been the bigger story if Liam Neeson wasn't in Obi-Wan Kenobi. Yeah. People were like, "Do you think he's gonna be in there?" I was like, "No, if he's not in there, that's where you should be worried about." But no. And then of course, I heard from a source that they were on set and they did see Hayden Christensen, and I'm not going to say who it was, but they did tell me that that's what happened. So,
damn,
Hayden Christensen's going to be in Ahsoka.
What? Wait, you're gonna have an Ahsoka show that mentions Anakin Skywalker? Really?
But wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong, David. Didn't Rosario Dawson just like tweet it out because she had heard about it, but it wasn't even confirmed? and then like it was like Lucasfilm was like, yeah, he's in there. I mean, we were trying to keep it a secret, but I guess Rosario Dawson just told everybody. But it wasn't even like they hadn't even confirmed it yet.
I think we can forgive her for having a Tom Holland moment.
And with Star Wars, that's totally like we're still excited about it. You're not going to spoil anything crazy for us. You know what I mean? Like we're still gonna like if she would have dropped that before, like months and months ago, if Hayden Christensen had walked on the stage for the Ahsoka's panel at Celebration, like everybody would have just lost their minds. It wouldn't have spoiled anything. We all would have just been super excited, and the hype level would have just gone up even more. And that's the thing about Star Wars is you give us stuff, we're gonna hype it up. You're not killing anything for us. We're still gonna go watch and be extremely hyped for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely do think we're gonna see some things with Hayden.
So I have a question. Do they figure out a way to give Ashley Eckstein a cameo in Ahsoka?
That's interesting.
That would be cool.
I feel like you have to. I feel like
somehow. I think she's in it. She could have been on our bingo card.
maybe another Jedi or possible Force sensitive. You know what I mean?
What about even if they have some kind of younger Ahsoka and she is the voiceover for that younger Ahsoka in a flashback?
Oh, that would be cool.
That's a good possibility right there.
I it's Filoni. I can see him finding some way to get her in there. You know what I mean? Like because he got the voice of Anakin in I mean he didn't direct the episode, but Mandalorian, that actor was in there, and everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a cool cameo that he's there." I have a feeling Filoni is going to figure out some way for her to be in the series, and we're just going to have to keep our eyes open how it all plays out. So,
yeah, I know Ashley Eckstein was kind of devastated when she wasn't cast as live action Ahsoka, and that was kind of an interesting situation. But I mean, when you have the option of casting Rosario Dawson and she really wants to do it, she's invested into that character, it's kind of hard to say no at that point. But I mean, Ashley Eckstein, I mean, she's huge in the Star Wars community. She's done the voice for Ahsoka in all of animation, and she's a big part of Star Wars. And then she has her clothing line, her branding line, her universe, and she's always at Celebration. She's always doing signings. She's always at conventions. She is very much a huge part of Star Wars. And if you're listening, Ashley, you're welcome on the show.
Yes, definitely. Come to the show, Ashley. You're always welcome.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, I didn't even think about her as a cameo. That's a great call, Kyle. I think we are going to see her as a cameo. Actually, she's going to have something to do with the show. A lot of her social media stuff and interactions with Rosario have been pretty cool. I think the few cons they've been to together, they've done teamed up photo ops with fans. So you have Ashley on one side and Rosario on the other as an Ahsoka photo op. And
The best one though was when that woman was dressed as Ahsoka and they did the finger pointing.
oh yeah.
picture. That was that's one of the greatest pictures I've ever seen in my life. Where she's pointing at them, and then Ashley Eckstein and Rosario Dawson are pointing at each other, and I was like, "Wow, that is incredible." And yeah, Ashley Eckstein is like really supportive of Rosario Dawson doing this, and Rosario, like you said, Rosario Dawson is also extremely grateful for what Ashley Eckstein did for that character. So I'm glad that there's no bad blood between them. You know what I mean? Like there could have easily been Ashley Eckstein could have been like, well, I mean, they could have put me there. I mean, they could have done like just like little side comments about it. But yeah. Somebody
and also don't feel too bad for Ashley Eckstein. I mean, she's pretty well off. She's actually married to David Eckstein, who's a World Series MVP and played for years for the Cardinals. And he got a Major League Baseball salary. So, and then she has her own company. So, and they live in Orlando. I know a lot of information about Ashley Eckstein.
I was going to say, hey, what else do you know about her?
I actually know some other stuff that I probably shouldn't mention. But Colin told me, because Colin was essentially her neighbor in Orlando.
So I kept running into her. Yeah.
I think Ashley is at this point probably one of the top 5 representatives of Star Wars.
Yeah,
in the community.
True.
Yeah,
I agree. She's one of the big faces. Yeah,
I like that.
I totally agree.
So we are less than an hour away right now because it's got to drop 10 minutes before 8 o'clock.
Let's just keep our fingers crossed that it doesn't crash. Because
that's the fear.
You weren't supposed to say that, Ray.
Hey,
you just jinxed it.
Why would
you are from the dark side, sir? I'm just saying.
Is that why you're wearing all black?
Yes, that's why I'm wearing all black. Yes. No.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, one of the things I really want to see, and I really hope we get it, is a flashback with Freddie Prinze. That's what I really, really want to see. That one flashback with Hera and, him
and the
holding
ghost,
that. Yeah, that. Dang. If I can get that, man, I'd get goosebumps. I can tell you right now.
So yeah, we can talk to that a little bit because Freddie Prinze Jr. has already said he is not coming back to Star Wars. He did not come back to Star Wars. He keeps on saying that. It makes me think he came back to Star Wars and he filmed that scene, Ray.
I'm hoping that happens. Or some form.
He's had some weird interviews lately.
And his wife is in Star Wars too.
Yes.
That's right. But
here's the other thing you have to remember about Freddie Prinze Jr. though, is that this is a guy who is not only a huge professional wrestling fan, he has actually written for professional wrestling. So if anybody knows the difference between pulling one over on somebody and understands the dynamic of it, it's Freddie Prinze Jr.
I never thought about it that way.
True.
That's really true. I never thought about it that way. But I remember he was saying like Dave Filoni helped film the hallway, the Vader hallway scene in Rogue One. And it was like, no, he wasn't there because I think that was shot in Australia, if I'm not correct.
No, that was shot in London.
Shot in London
or in England somewhere.
Somewhere. And they were talking about that, and I was like, I don't know, and I don't know. It was just really strange that he would say that. Like Dave Filoni was there when they shot the hallway scene in Rogue One, and I don't know. Yes, I hope you guys will be back. So pumped to have a weekly adventure. Oh, thank you so much. I like his profile picture. It looks like he's there at Galaxy's Edge on Rise of the Resistance. One of the best experiences at Disneyland.
I have to go. I have not been there yet.
Oof. So we had this crazy
Disney World.
It's been at Disney World. I worked at Disneyland, so I got to walk in between those guys.
Nice.
It's really funny. Okay,
I'm
not gonna spoil anything. I'm just gonna say it's so funny how just like trap doors there are, if you may, like at Disneyland, not just in that area, but just everywhere. You're walking and you just open a door, and then there's just a regular hallway and a break room right there, and people just eating. Like, oh hey, and I heard stories of guests who would walk through the wrong door, and they're just like, what? And it's just this break room with a vending machine and everybody in their costumes. Like, oh, you went through the wrong door. You got to go that way. And so that's I'm not going to say anymore because I don't know. Colin gets mad at me when I talk about Disney. So
The end of the Disney magic.
yeah, there's a lot of things. But anyways, but yes, thank you very much for listening to us.
Yeah, thanks, Joshua.
I think.
And I hope you're excited like we are. And David posted something about how to prepare for Ahsoka, which is to get your drink, get your Star Wars shirt, get your buddy, and get your snacks, your Star Wars snacks, and just enjoy it. You know what I mean? Like, do y'all have your Star Wars shirt that you're going to be wearing for Ahsoka or no?
I have my traditional Star Wars stuff.
There you go.
It's waiting to be released before. Yeah, we don't want any spillage or accidents or anything like that.
Oh, okay. Like it's being protected right now. We're not gonna.
Yeah, see, Kyle's Lothcats lounging right now. So hopefully
I saw that earlier. And also, yes, don't forget your bingo card. We posted it on our Instagram and our Facebook. So yes, whoever can get 4 in a row. There it is. Message us right away when you get the 4 in a row, and you'll win a really, really nice prize. Just gonna say that.
Yeah, I'll just go over it for the people that have joined us on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook that normally don't join us. So we have a bingo card. Anyone can play. The way it works, the bingo card is the same for everyone in the world. You just have to have a North American mailbox for us to ship the prize to. So if you get a normal bingo, 4 across, 4 up, 4 down, 4 diagonally, you get a bingo. All you have to do is report that to us, say, hey, bingo, and then we'll look at the timestamp. If it's simultaneous, we'll see who chimed in with bingo first, and then we'll verify the card. If all the judges, all the co-hosts of Star Wars Stuff Podcast agree on the bingo, you will win the prize, and the prize is actually the Ahsoka Tano Black Series lightsaber that got announced by Hasbro Pulse. So any which way, and if it's impossible to get a traditional bingo, we'll count 4 corners. If that's not possible, all the spots that were called out or shown in the show are valid. So Kevin, who's seen the first 2 episodes at the Ahsoka fan event, actually told us that there's maybe more than one spot that can be highlighted from tonight's premiere. So keep on the lookout. Not a bingo, but I mean there might be a couple of spots out there. So just keep that in mind.
I'm surprised we didn't put Tatooine on there.
Is it like the mandatory?
It seems like it. It seems like we're always gonna go back to Tatooine in some capacity. And you bring that up to Ray or Brooke in our podcast, and they'll let you. They'll they hate Tatooine, and it's so funny.
I will say this though. I do know a little something. So, and I know it through someone that knows an actor. And it's okay. I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it is Tatooine centric that we're going to see on the show.
Are we?
It's not going to be Tatooine per se. It could be on Tatooine, but there is something very, very Tatooine centric that's going to appear in Ahsoka.
R4.
Which is very vague. I can't say anything.
All right. Thank you for not saying anything. I'd be really, really upset if you're like,
R4 would be cool.
He got his moment,
like
man.
Favorite droid.
Gosh, R4, man, can you imagine like just this droid that explodes in A New Hope, and now like all these years later has a moment. Yes, and somebody says, "Show me Sand." No.
I think we'll see it at
Brooke?
some point.
Was that Brooke? I think that's Brooke. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it's Brooke Weaver chiming in here.
Just the fist comes through the computer and punches us.
So here's a question I have, guys. I mean, obviously, we have so many characters who are being imported for the first time from animation to live action. Which character are you most intrigued by or most excited to see make their debut in live action?
Well, for me, it's Chopper. To see Chopper being the psycho that he is live action is so exciting for me. Just those few clips they've released of him, I'm like, they got him. That's Chopper. just that sassy, crazy war criminal of a droid. You know, like it's awesome, and that's who
Yeah.
I'm most looking forward to.
Same. Chopper.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm definitely
exactly.
interested in seeing Chopper. But for me, I think I'm really interested to see what Sabine's arc is going to be. And from everything I've heard, Natasha Liu Bordizzo knocks out the park as Sabine. She's a standout. So I'm super excited for her and her Star Wars career. And all those kind of hints that maybe she is force sensitive. And if not force sensitive, maybe she's just great with the blade, great with the sword. So I want to see what Filoni kind of does with all of that. And it feels like Sabine's going to have a major part to play in the show.
And then can we all just admit that this is season 5 of Rebels called
Yeah,
Ahsoka?
I think
I've heard
Yeah.
so many, like, it's not the continuation. I'm like, it's season 5 of Rebels. Like like, don't stop pretending it's not, because everyone's back. Everyone's there. And, you know, going back to Dave Filoni's episode in season 2, they dropped the name Thrawn. Like, do you remember that? That was insane. When she said, "Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn?" I remember I yelled. I was like, "Oh my!" I'm like, it's all happening, and then now we get to experience it. You know, these next few weeks. But yeah, when they dropped Thrawn's name, I was like, "Oh man, they have this thing planned out for quite a few more years of how it's all going to come together." And I'm excited. There's another one. I'm excited to see Thrawn.
You just hit my
live
magic
action.
button.
Yeah.
Thrawn has been the character I am most excited because I think he's also the most challenging character because he's so important. He's so many different things to Star Wars fans. And obviously he's going to be a character that's going to have a long game in this live action universe going forward. But yeah, I think Thrawn is going to be, just even hearing the mention of him in the last season of Mandalorian with the Shadow Council, even, and you're just like, you just kind of get that tingle in your spine going, and you're like, oh, it's gonna be epic. And are they going to be able to pull off Thrawn on to that Emperor Vader level villain that he should be?
I think Lars Mikkelsen is. He has the voice, and that voice is just, you hear it and you're like, oh, that guy's evil. That guy's up to no good. I think he's going to deliver, and it's going to be amazing, because I remember seeing him in House of Cards, and he was also in an episode of Sherlock, and just, I don't know, just the way his mannerisms are, the way he speaks, and how he's very subtle but what he's saying is pretty big. I think this is going to be a new type of villain that we are not used to seeing in Star Wars. And I have a feeling it's going to be a hit. I think he may become one of the greats as well, up there with, you know, I'm not going to say up there, but I think he may become one of the greats with the villains. So I'm excited to see him pop. And then the fact they got him to play the part. I mean, I know we have been talking for years, who's got to play Thrawn? I'd been saying from the beginning, I was like, it has to be Lars Mikkelsen. Like, he's already doing the voice. He kind of already looks like Thrawn. I mean, he's a tall, very, very thin person. I mean, and I was like, he's got the voice. He's not old. He's a fairly young guy. I'm not young, but you know what I mean? He's not an old guy. So it was perfect. And when they announced him, I was like, yeah, that makes perfect sense. So I think it's gonna be pretty cool to see him.
No, he's gonna be to me like an evil genius, because he studies, you know, the people either his opponents. He likes to know his opponent's weaknesses. So I think he's gonna be that character that we're not expecting. He's gonna be a different evil.
And here's a great question. How is this? I know we're getting a movie, but how does Thrawn's arc and everything gonna lead into The Force Awakens? Like, how what he's doing gonna lead into what's gonna happen later in The Force Awakens? Like, I'm just really, really curious how they're gonna tie it all together.
Maybe we actually see the actual Battle of Jakku. Maybe they work it in that.
Yeah.
Way.
Maybe that's the finale battle that we've all been thinking about. Like, maybe that's what Filoni's movie is going to be, is the Jakku battle.
Yeah,
that is possible.
Well, and that would be bad. I mean, it'd be crazy if that's where, Ahsoka falls. That would be hard to see. I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
I don't think the fandom is ready to see that yet.
Yeah, no. I'm not. I don't want to see that happen at all. But I know it's eventually gonna happen. But God, I don't want it. So we gotta wait.
I think, yeah, after the season of Ahsoka that we get, these 8 episodes, I think we're gonna get her in something else at least. But I mean, you think back to her lineage, and she was created by George and Filoni. I think Filoni wants to keep her around a little bit longer. It's going to be tough for, I think, Filoni to let her go eventually. Of course, we have that scene in The Rise of Skywalker where Rey hears all the Jedi voices, and we hear Ashley Eckstein's voice as Ahsoka, and everyone was like, well, wait a minute. If we heard her voice, that means she's become one with the Force. So at what point did she become one with the Force? We don't know. And then I think people started to realize, well, that doesn't necessarily mean she's not around. You would maybe think that, because I mean, she's a huge part of Star Wars, and she maybe would have helped with the Rebels and have been around in that time period. But she would have been really, really old. I mean, she would have been older than Luke Skywalker, right? I mean, and Luke was very old at that point. So yeah, it's tough to say. Clouded the future is.
Yep.
Sorry about that. What I miss? Just kidding.
Ray wants to know, does Ahsoka die? Not tonight.
Wouldn't that be the craziest twist ever? If, like, she dies.
Dude.
The second
man.
episode, and we're just like, what? Like, everything we've seen in all the
That's the
trailers is
twist.
just the first 2 episodes.
Oh
Is
my gosh.
he gonna pull a Wes Craven on us where he kills off, Drew Barrymore in the first scene?
And then now they definitely have to find Ezra, because Ezra and then can go into the world between worlds, and then he can go and find her and pull her out. And
There's the out right there. Yeah, so I mean that there's more of a probability of that happening now, James, because you can actually go into the world between worlds, pull her back out, save her. Yeah.
Somebody figured it out.
I do want to point out to people to make sure you take the time to enjoy Ray Stevenson's performance in this show.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's tragic that he's no longer with us, but
Yeah.
he is a phenomenal actor. If this is your first chance to really get exposed to him, enjoy it, because I think he's going to put in a phenomenal performance in this show.
Yeah, and the camaraderie on set too. I think Rosario Dawson shared pictures of them hanging out after shooting Ahsoka, and it seemed like they all bonded, and maybe there was like a continuation for Baylan Skoll, Ray Stevenson's character, and just the look of him too. I mean, he looks like a terrifying figure, which is what he's supposed to look like. I think that's the goal. That's the aim, to make him look like an opposing figure to go up against Ahsoka. We've seen it in the commercials. And then he has like the orange lightsaber, and apparently he has an apprentice too in Ivana Satno's character, Shin Hati. So, and the names too, I think we haven't really talked about their names much on the podcast, but those 2 names, Baylan and Shin, are derived from 2 wolves from ancient wolves, right, Dave Filoni? From ancient Norse mythology. There were 2 wolves that were tasked, I think, by Odin to devour the sun and the moon to start Ragnarok. So that's like the ancient mythology that has to do with their names. And of course, Merrick as well is another wolf name from ancient mythology. And Merrick is also the name of Embo's pet, who is also a wolf in animation. So Filoni works in the wolves all the time, and he's a big fan, I guess, of wolves. So yeah, and then you have Wolf and the clones, the Clone Wars, and so it's going to be interesting to see what's going on there. Well, how that all ties. We all know it ties in somehow, some way, and it's not an accident. But yeah, definitely. I'm glad you brought that up, Kyle. Ray Stevenson tragically passed, and this is his final performance. and he looks like he did a fantastic job, and I can't wait to see. And I think we're going to see him tonight. I think we're going to see him in less than an hour. So maybe not episode 1, probably episode 2. I don't know. I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure we're going to see some of the bits that we saw in the commercials, and see him dueling with a lightsaber. 2 force users wielding lightsabers dueling. I think we're going to get more of that than we got in the sequel trilogy in this series alone. So that's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, because even Dave Filoni said, the fans know what a good lightsaber fight is, and what a bad one is. So he goes, we did our best to make sure we did the best lightsaber fights you can see. And it's just, oh my gosh, like, do you think the faces before the show are gonna change? You know how they do the
Oh yeah.
Are we gonna get?
Oh, there's Ahsoka's gonna be there. Yeah, there's
oh my gosh,
Yeah.
and then like,
have they ever done a humanoid face before?
They haven't, actually. So it would be interesting if this time around they did. And let me ask you this question: do you think Filoni's gonna change that formula up, since it's his show? Like, he's going with the red Lucasfilm logo.
Yeah,
now.
he already changed the logo.
And so I'm wondering if he's gonna switch some things up, like for his style and everything, and maybe go back to that traditional feel of Star Wars when it starts. Because you remember that what was that episode of the Clone Wars season 7, whenever the logo came up and it just said Lucasfilm in the old school, like Lucasfilm logo. I remember I was like, oh man, this is gonna be cool. And then the theme started. Yeah. And it was almost like Filoni was like, this is a movie. What we're about to do right now is a film, and just sit back and watch, because this is going to be amazing. I'm wondering if he's going to do that with this. I mean, we're going to find out here very soon, but what are your thoughts? Do you think he's going to tweak a few things at the beginning?
I would want to hear, because I don't know if you remember the narration of how in Clone Wars there's always
Tom Kane.
Yeah. If they could bring that the opening scene for this, that would be crazy.
That would be nuts. But they didn't do it for Rebels, though. That's the problem. Was it wasn't there for Rebels, so I don't know if he would do it for this. But that would be so great. If he's like, dude. Ahsoka Tano, we find her on the blah 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 blah, and then and who is it? Colin on the podcast. He does that like perfect. He can do perfect impression of the intro of the Clone Wars.
That would be cool if they did that.
That'd be really cool. And David and I talked earlier on the Patreon episode, which is to hear the music, to hear the iconic Ahsoka theme, but then also to hear other Star Wars themes being woven in. That's going to be something incredible too. So, man, it's so cool. And then, okay, I'm going to just say this: I really hope Grogu does not show up in the series.
No, I think he's on a well-deserved vacation. But another thing I'm looking forward to,
leave him there.
The return of the 10th Doctor, or David Tennant.
Yes, that too.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting about David Tennant being in there.
Yeah, that'd be cool. When I Clone Wars, when I had heard that he was coming out in it as a Doctor Who fan, I was so stoked, because he's a Star Wars fan in himself. So for him to get that role, and for as a Doctor Who fan to hear his voice in the robot, and then also him working with the younglings to create their lightsabers, that was freaking cool. And then when they first saw the trailer here, and you hear him, "Let's get started," and I'm like, oh.
I'm telling you, man, Filoni's got to give us the goods, man. He's going to deliver the goods for this show, and I am insanely hyped for it. I think I'm dangerously hyped for this series, because I don't want it to disappoint me. But I'm really, really excited. Evan is having trouble with Patreon as well. Works for me now, though. Okay, good. Never mind. He solved it. Okay, great.
Interesting. I wonder what I know they've done some updates. I know now that Patreon actually has a partnership with our host Spotify, so we'll be able to do some interesting things here in the future with that. But yeah, everyone's complaining, I think, about the app. They can't see some of our posts, but yeah, like I said, all of our podcasts we do, when you're a Patreon member, you're gonna get them ad-free, audio and video. So I think that's a big benefit to be on our Patreon. It's only $5 a month to get that. So hop on that if you want to get us ad free, and we talk about Star Wars stuff nonstop. Different people from different parts of the country, different ages, different races, different generations. So, and then we have awesome co-hosts as well, guest co-hosts. So, like Kyle from the Phantom Podcast Network, as well as Kevin, and of course Ray, who I pretty much consider as part of the podcast. So he's a little different, but so yeah, it's a really cool time to be into Star Wars right now and take in a lot of our content. And I know Colin, Christian, Star, Cap, Hunter, Josh are all doing Clone Wars commentaries as well as Rebels commentaries. So those will be on Patreon as well. So if you want to listen to those and watch a little bit of the shows, I know I have to cut out a lot of it for copyright reasons, but yeah, you can hang out with them and get their thoughts on the shows. But yeah, it's a great time. Colin likes to refer to this time of year as Star Wars season. We're back in Star Wars season because we have a live ongoing show in Star Wars that we're going to look forward to every week. And now during the day, essentially,
so great.
during the time while I'm awake, and then I can function the next day. Yeah,
there's actually enough time to even rewatch it.
Yeah, you can
Which is what
rewatch
we're
without
gonna
having
do.
to stay up, stay up all night and then have to go to work the next day. It's just so great that we get to experience it in the day. Like the sun is still out right now. Like for me, the sun is still shining, and we're less than 30 minutes away from it dropping. So, like I said, everybody, if you want to avoid the clutter, get on there 10 minutes early, and then it'll be there ready for you to watch.
I know my loft cat behind me has definitely had a power nap and is very much ready for the show now. So
yeah, what's
Nice.
what's your loft cat's name? I see it back there moving around.
I have Stripesy there, but if you look behind me, behind the chair, his brother
geez.
is hanging out right there.
Those cats living their best lives, man. I love it. You can't see. I have my dog asleep. I have a plush Grogu, and she's asleep on the Grogu, and so that's where my dog's at right now, asleep next to me.
Yeah. And I actually have
And,
Mittens right here.
Nice.
Say hi, Mittens.
The easiest one to clean up after.
He usually talks when I don't want him to, but I don't know. He's shy right now or something. Come on, you can talk. Do it. You do it randomly and scare the stuff out of me. He's shy right now.
That's amazing. So let me ask you this question, David: are we going to get a season 2 of Ahsoka, or are we just going to get this season and that's going to lead into the movie?
I think that's the interesting thing. I think with the whole, again, we talked about this. We don't want to talk about it, but the whole writers and actors strike, that's going to push things. So we definitely want to get the Filoni movie. I think that's Lucasfilm's thinking. We definitely want to get the Filoni movie out, and that's going to push other things aside or shelve things, possibly Mando season 4, because we don't know exactly what the Filoni movie is going to be. It might incorporate elements that he might want to have out there for us as part of the overall grand story of Ahsoka, and might have to push it into the film, thereby canceling a possible season 2. I don't know. It could be that. It could be the big domino fall thing, but it's just dependent on when these deals can get struck with the studios and the actors and writers. It's super unfortunate right now, but it's part of the business.
As much as I wonder, how much does Skeleton Key play an aspect of whether we get a season 2 of Ahsoka or not, just because of the strike and how Skeleton Key is going to fall? Will that end in a way that it's going to have to lead into that movie? I mean, I think that's one of the big questions out there.
Yeah, I think Skeleton Crew is actually going to get pushed to next year. I think that's one of the things that a lot of people haven't read up on or reported about, but I think that's not going to happen until next year, unfortunately. We were going to get, I think, a fall to holiday season release on that, but I think current events have changed that, and I think Lucasfilm Disney wants to line up Skeleton Crew, Acolyte, and then what else is next? I know there's like a Jedi Adventures thing. There's another video game coming out, Outlaws, and I think for whatever reason they just want to just push that, and hopefully maybe they're putting all their eggs in the Ahsoka basket. It kind of feels like that with the time and date change, all the marketing push, the big fan event they did in multiple cities. They're really wanting to vault Ahsoka into the mainstream, and they want to give her the end of the year possibly to have her to be enjoyed by all the fans and discovered by all the fans on Disney Plus, and give her the spotlight. I don't know if that's her thinking, but I mean, what else really could it be? I mean,
Well, we
strange.
also still there's still going to be a Bad Batch season 3 at some point, and I swear I've recently read that they were working on another Visions project.
Yes, another Visions is going to come out. Visions is kind of more like an outlier, because I think Visions is something that drops that people, it's not really canon, so it's not really looked upon like an Ahsoka, because Ahsoka is like streamlined mainline canon. So Visions is more of like what I've been asking for a long time. Do like what DC does with like Elseworlds. I mean, you can still do other things within Star Wars. Everything doesn't have to be canon. We could see possibly like Starkiller. We can see Sam Witwer do that outside of the canon, and just it won't confuse audiences. I don't think it will. I think audiences are pretty savvy.
What if, basically.
Right. And DC's doing it right now with the Joker and the Joker sequel and Robert Pattinson's Batman. I mean, that's all outside of the mainline DC and the new DCU. So yeah, I really think Star Wars is a brand that can pull that off. I mean, it's Star Wars, guys. It's like you can do more than just the mainline canon stuff. It's like you can spread your wings out and go to different spots and different places. Visions is terrific. I love it. I love the animation. I love the different stories. It gives us new ideas, and it gives other creators the opportunity to display what Star Wars could be other than what we have. And I think that's really the beauty of Star Wars. Star Wars is a genre, and people need to kind of realize that and kind of open their minds to that. And I think we're headed in that direction.
Someone just asked, will they ever release a Rogue Squadron movie? I'm going to say no.
At least not with Patty Jenkins involved.
I think that movie is completely done. And if they do release it, that's not going to be until like in the 30s, I believe. And then they just announced Taika Waititi is supposedly signed on for a Thor 5, and the fans couldn't be, even more upset than what they are already. Like nobody likes that idea that Taika Waititi is going to do another Thor movie, and which means his Star Wars movie. I am certain that his Star Wars movie is done. I don't think he is going to be coming back going to be doing Star Wars in the future, because it just so much time has passed. The bad blood that was there with the new Marvel, with the Thor Love and Thunder. I don't know. And honestly, I wouldn't want him to do a Star Wars movie.
So I just learned, James, that Thor Love and Thunder actually made over $700 million at the box.
Oh no, it made a lot of money.
Yeah.
People went to go. I went to go see it.
Yeah.
But was it good? No, it wasn't. And
well, I mean, I think there's louder voices that say it wasn't good, but a lot of people did like it. And I had someone actually respond to a podcast we did where we mentioned that same thing. And someone called me out, and they were like, "You're just agreeing with everyone else and saying that movie was bad when it really wasn't." It's like, well, I mean, it's not one of the better ones.
Are we Taika oversaturated? Is that the question?
I like when I'm watching the movie, and I'm a huge Taika Waititi fan, and then I think halfway through Love and Thunder, I was like, "Oh, this is bad. This is not gonna get better." And then the ending happened, and I was like, "Oh, that was horrible." I looked at my wife, and my wife also a big Taika Waititi fan. She was like, "I didn't like it." I was like, "I didn't like it either." Looked at my friends. We all went to go see it as a group, and it was like an event for us to go watch it, and we were all really disappointed when it was over. So that's just me. But so yeah, the question was that they're gonna ever do a Rogue Squadron movie. If they do, it's gonna be years from now. I don't think, and of course, Patty Jenkins is not going to be attached to it at all. I don't think is she even going to be doing the new Wonder Woman?
No.
No.
Is there going to be a new Wonder Woman? I mean,
Yeah, according to James Gunn, not necessarily.
yeah, that
Gal
was.
Gadot says different.
Oh, that's right. She said.
She said, and then DC said different, and it's like, what's going on over
I
there,
think she's
guys?
trying to Dwayne Johnson her own movie. Like she's trying to like,
and that worked
it's
out
gonna
real well for
happen.
Dwayne Johnson.
Exactly.
That's
so
weird.
It's bizarre. Yeah, she killed her choice, her chance of ever doing a Star Wars movie. I mean, they had that amazing promo. Everybody was excited. She's putting on shoes, and then she goes and walks, and there's an X-wing there waiting for her.
Put
and
on
then
rollerblades, and she's like
Rollerblades, that's
rollerblade
right.
on a tarmac with an X-wing. And I'm like, oh my god, what's going on here?
and
Had
it was
no
so
idea.
cool. And then the Wonder Woman 1984 comes out, and I was like, "Whoa, this is
Pedro Pascal.
not a good movie." Dude. I heard a joke, and it was really bad. You want to hear the joke?
Sure.
It was I saw this movie. People were watching this movie as an in-flight movie, and they wanted to leave.
Oh.
They still wanted to leave, you know. So yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
Thoughts
So-
of the new Guardians movie?
Actually, hold on. I want to answer this question. Will they ever release a Rogue Squadron movie? Yes, they will eventually release one, I think, because it is a legacy title in a sense. The Rogue Squadron books are very beloved, and I think they did develop something. It is shelved, I believe. I think it's on the shelf. I think it just has to be kind of like reworked, modified to fit whatever director vision they bring on. And I think we're going to get a Rogue Squadron-esque type film eventually. So
it will be the Tom Cruise Star Wars movie.
well, that's Maverick. I mean, Top Gun 2, that's a Star Wars
Yeah.
film.
That's pretty much what it was.
Top Gun Rogue Squadron.
Bring back,
What
who they should
Tom Cruise.
if they ever do a Rogue Squadron movie, you know who should direct it is Blomkamp, Neil Blomkamp.
Oh yeah,
mean,
he'd be good.
I think he would be amazing. And
Dude, what about Christopher Nolan?
did you see that interview when they were like doing like a quick fire question? Would you ever consider directing a Star Wars movie? He paused and went, pass. Like, I'm not going to answer the question. And other
So he's in
questions,
talks.
He said yes or no. But it was
You heard
that
it here first.
pause. It was that pause he gave. And it was almost like for the fans, of course, we're like, oh man, he's in talks. Or I'm wondering if he was like, if I say no, will people be like, he's not a true fan? If I say yes, are the people going to be thinking I am going to be doing one? So I'm just not going to answer the question.
But I
Yeah,
think
that's one of
that's
those tricky things.
Yeah. I think that's the tantalizing thing about Star Wars, though, even more so than Marvel, because Marvel's got such set directions they're going in right now. Star Wars, there is this huge sandbox to go play in. And you know Christopher Nolan would love to establish something outside of the Skywalker saga with Star Wars. And really set something outside of Star Wars and tell his own story.
But could you imagine his style in Star Wars? His
could.
use of I want to do everything in camera. I don't
Yeah,
want to.
that's Star Wars, James. That's the original
That is
trilogy right there.
Crazy if he does that. Like,
That's
I'm
why I
gonna
said.
watch
That's
it-
why I brought it up, man. That's why I'm like, I think his vision would be perfect for Rogue Squadron.
Can you imagine that, man?
I don't
Well,
think.
you know,
I'm gonna say
Yeah.
I would want him for another Star Wars movie. I don't think for Rogue Squadron. I don't
For
think
what? Like just a brand new thing?
a brand like his own
Yeah.
Star Wars thing. I
His
think
own
that would be
Let him
really
tell
interpretation
his
of
cool.
Star
Star
Wars
Wars.
story that he
But
wants to tell.
because with Rogue Squadron, you're gonna want a director who understands visual effects and understands, and like really can shoot that very well. There's only a few directors out there now who are incredible at it. David Fincher is one of them who can shoot visual effects better than a lot of directors can.
And
Now,
Fincher's
that
one
would
of
be
the
an-
directors that passed on Force Awakens.
Yep.
Mhm.
Nolan also. Del Toro also passed on Force Awakens.
Man, Del Toro would be so good
Yeah.
too, man.
Yeah,
wait,
he
An
said-
Underworld Del Toro film?
Yeah.
Come on, it writes itself.
I could get myself in a lot of trouble here. I mean, we do have, that what was supposed to be a Star Wars movie.
Oh,
The
Rebel
trailer dropped
Moon.
for today.
Dude, that trailer, they have lightsabers. They are lightsabers.
Yeah,
They have
Yeah.
laser
I mean-
swords. It's like this was Star
And they're on
Wars.
like fire, like plasma fire.
and I'm
It's
like,
wow.
oh my gosh. And like the narration, you hear the narration, I'm thinking, okay, that could have been a Luke Skywalker narration at the beginning, like
Mhm.
instead of Anthony Hopkins, I'm just kind of trying to like how can Mark Hamill have done this? And
Yeah.
they're looking for somebody, and this person has the key, and there's this evil force coming to them, and this one woman has to rise up and fight this evil force, and the title is Rebel Moon. It
That's
is
the
a
most
Star
Star Wars
Wars
sounding.
title.
It's a Star Wars movie Zack Snyder wanted to do. It's basically
Yeah.
what's going
And George Lucas was like, I want you to write this. And he said yes. And then when it got sold, they were like, no, we're not going to do it. And he was like, well, you know what? That's your loss, because George Lucas liked it. You know what I mean? And you just messed up. Somebody said, well, I personally don't like Ryan Johnson's movie as part of the Star Wars saga. I do think he would have been taking his ideas. Yeah. And then that movie is gone. Oh, I'm sorry, David. Are you clicking on it too?
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on with this thing? But yeah, that trilogy was announced before Last Jedi came out. I think because Johnson finished Last Jedi under budget early, and everybody thought it was great. And Kennedy, I think, was on a high, and she was like, wow, well, this guy's amazing. He's got to get his own trilogy. And movie came out, and it was very divisive, and people either loved it or hated it. And I think that kind of put a halt to his thing. But he does have his last Knives Out movie going to be coming out hopefully next year. I mean, I don't know anymore.
Right.
Probably in 2 years. Maybe after the third Knives Out movie, he'll be able to then maybe focus on the Star Wars trilogy.
But I question this. I ask you this, James. Because of the divisiveness, was that the reason why Ryan Johnson didn't go immediately back into Star Wars to make the trilogy?
That is a good question.
I don't think it was his decision.
But part of me, it wonders if he was like, I want to do my own stuff before, because it felt like when Knives Out came out, it was like a couple of years after, and it was almost like he was like, I got this story. I want to tell the story.
Yeah.
So part of me is wondering if he himself said, I'm going to take a step back. And I think at the time it was like, I'm going to take a step back, and when I do it, I'm going to come back and do Star Wars, because J.J. Abrams, my movie's gonna do great. J.J. Abrams' movie's gonna do amazing, and everyone's gonna love them, and so it'll be easy for me to come back. But I think after what happened, I think he kind of said, I'll take a little more time off, and then Netflix gave him that sick deal, and it was like, all right, well, I'd be the dumbest director at Hollywood to not take $100 million to do two movies that they're gonna be like, just do what you want to do. And
that's incredible.
Glass Onion was awesome. I thought Glass Onion was a really great movie. And so, yeah.
Ryan Johnson, great director, great mind when he's creating his own material. I don't know if he's the kind of director, because he's always going to take something in a different direction than what maybe it's been before. You'd rather have him taking something new on than stepping in the middle of something.
True.
So I think if he would have started with his own Star Wars story from the beginning, instead of being in the middle of a trilogy, we look at it a totally different way.
I remember it was so weird. And we talked about this before, David and I did on a Patreon episode, where Marvel and Lucasfilm projects don't talk to each other. Writers do not talk to each other. They barely will speak to each other. James Gunn is watching Infinity War, and he sees what Star-Lord does, and he's just like, that's not what? Now I have to address that in my movie now. I had no idea this was going to happen. Like, I had no idea Star-Lord was going to be the one who punches Thanos, and then Thanos then does what he does, Yeah. And then they're watching it, and then I forget which. Oh, yeah. He was like, oh, I guess I got to deal with Thor now, because Thor just joins the Guardians of the Galaxy at the end of Endgame. He goes, I had no idea they were going to do that. So those directors, nobody talked to each other when it came to the Marvel movies. And for some odd reason, that's the norm, which is really stupid. Yeah. And then apparently Lucasfilm also is like, oh, yeah, don't really work on this. You're only allowed to see this script. You can't see anything else. So Ryan Johnson writes his first draft based off of J.J. Abrams' movie. Movie comes out, and he's like, oh, okay, well, those characters were much more important in the movie than they were in the script, so I have to go back and rewrite. So I don't know if y'all remember, he had to rewrite some of The Last Jedi because he had no idea certain characters were going to be a lot more important, because the script he read was an early draft. And I'm like, why don't y'all talk to each other? Why don't why didn't Kasdan and Abrams and Johnson all sit down in a room and say, okay, this is what we should do next?
Yeah, the Ryan Johnson and Colin Trevorrow should have been shadowing them.
Yes. And then early on, it was Johnson was writing 9. He had the story for 8 and 9, but then I think Trevorrow was like, oh, I'm going to try to take it my own way. And he said, okay, that's cool. And then, so that happened. But it's so strange that they didn't just say, hey, all 3 of y'all sit in a room and then discuss what you're going to do. And
Yeah,
it's
Common sense.
ridiculous.
What you were expected to use common sense?
Yep,
There's a
sometimes it's
few-
not common.
There's a few things I hear about that I'm like, all right, it got that far, and before you were like, oh wait, that's not gonna work. It's like, really? You really thought that was gonna work?
We
But
are
yeah.
20 minutes away, guys.
Oh no, we are
Yeah.
10 minutes away.
Oh, yes, technically, yes.
Yeah. So yeah, I want to address this definitely. Evan, one of our awesome patrons, awesome supporters of the Star Wars Stuff podcast. He says totally off topic, but would it be cool to do an episode with some of the Patreons? Would love to hear how Star Wars have affected people. Yeah, definitely. We want to do that. We just got to kind of coordinate that and talk to you guys. Evan, yeah, if you want to come on, yeah, let's figure that out.
Heck
and
yeah.
make sure the audio video is good, and we can do that for sure. And you know how to reach me. We have Messenger on Patreon. You can always contact us there when you are a patron. So yeah, let's figure something out and get that done. I've talked to Maka in person. I've talked to Evan in person. Who else have I talked to in person? I've met those 2 guys. I met Evan in London, and I met Maka in Anaheim. I don't think anyone else that's part of Patreon, other than I think James's sister that's on Patreon. She's still on there. But let's figure something out, and whatever you want to do. I mean, I'm game for it. If you want to talk about Star Wars and talk about do an Our Stories. That's essentially what Our Stories is. We interview other people, other podcasters, fans, 501st members, celebrities, and talk about their Star Wars story. So,
Which is always great. I always
Yeah.
love hearing. I always love hearing people's journey, how they got into Star Wars. And
yeah,
a friend of mine from college just messaged me the other day, and she was like, I just binge watched all Star Wars and I am obsessed. And I was like, wow, that's, you know what I mean? Like, all these years later, she's like, hey, I did it. I watched them all, and now it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. And I'm like, that's great. And we are going to meet in Japan. Oh boy.
yeah. That's gonna be awesome, Evan. Like I said, I met Evan in London. He's super cool, and I wish we would have hung out more though. I mean, there was so much stuff going on, and I was trying to. I think we were trying to do like a live stream, me, Colin, and Josh. And Evan approached us, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, it's actually you!" And it was so awesome to meet and talk for the little amount that we did. But yeah, Evan's pretty cool. So yeah, meeting in Japan. Hopefully, we all get there, and it's in 2025. Japan celebration, insane. Be my first time going, but yeah, I mean, Star Wars Celebration. If you guys are on the fence on going, go do it. Take
go.
the plunge. Ray might join me in Japan. Who knows? Or for the 50th anniversary of Star Wars, possibly in
gonna be
Anaheim.
big.
My guess is Anaheim for the 50th. That makes so much sense. So
Well, the funny thing is, I didn't even realize that I attended one of the Star Wars fan days. I just, like I said, I was going movies. Like I told you, I have so much stuff in my office over there. This is our guest bedroom, so I had to decorate our guest bedroom with all my stuff.
That's what this is too. Yeah.
So I found this, and I'm slowly finding more things that I have that I haven't unpacked. Like, I'm like, holy crap, I didn't realize I had this. So I'm like, wow. But yeah, I mean, it was a cool experience. The first time they had it was in Plano. It was, and the funny thing is, one of the guests they had was from Army of Darkness. The
Sam Raimi?
No, not Sam Raimi. The guy who played Ash.
Bruce Campbell.
Bruce Campbell was there.
The
He was
legend.
actually there. So I'm kind of like, how's Bruce Campbell there and you're having all these Star Wars like voice actors and everything there at the same time. It was kind of weird.
I love it.
Yeah. So we're about 5-ish minutes away from it dropping on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I'm on it right now. It did take a second
Oh,
to load.
okay. With that,
well, I
we're gonna
gotta go-
close the pre-show.
I gotta go
We're
get mine started.
Gotta go
Yeah.
get the hyperdrives ready.
Yeah, we're gonna end the pre-show. We'll be back for a post-show. So after you watch the second episode, you can come back. We'll have some of the similar guests here on the show. And if you're on YouTube, like, subscribe, get us to 1,000. So
Please.
close. Instagram at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. On X at Stuff Pod. On Threads at Star Wars Stuff Podcast. We're on Patreon, of course. We talked about that. You can find us at Star Wars Stuff Podcast 2187. We're on TikTok. You can find us on email. You can email us thoughts, ideas, starstuffpodcast@gmail.com. We're on Facebook. Some of you guys are watching and chatting with us there. Thank you so much. Star Wars Stuff group and a Star Wars Stuff podcast page. And thank you to all the people on Apple Podcasts and Spotify that have given us 5 stars, written awesome reviews for us. And we will see you after the second episode of the world premiere of Ahsoka. So for Retro Ray, Kyle, James, my name's David. May the Force be with you.
Always.